A federal judge has ruled that the Department of Government Efficiency may have violated the Constitution when it shut down the U.S. Agency for International Development. The ruling comes as critics charge that Doge itself is unconstitutional. CBN chief political analyst David Brody explains.
These first 2 months of President Trump's second term have been filled with executive orders and perhaps none more controversial than the one creating Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
It's been clear from the get-go that President Trump has tasked Elon Musk and his Doge team to go big when it comes to cutting waste in the federal bureaucracy. What's not so clear is whether the Doge methods and results are constitutional.
This is a constitutional crisis. It's the most serious assault on our Constitution in the history of this country.
Much of the legal wrangling centers on Elon Musk. Is he simply an advisor to the president, or does he have true authority to make decisions and use that chainsaw? Jenna Ellis is with the American Family Association.
This is an issue, I think, that is very political at the outset, but when it gets to the court, it should be purely legal, and that is going to turn on how much actual authority Elon Musk has, or is he only in an advisory role?
If Musk has been granted that decision-making power, then Doge may run afoul of the Constitution's Appointments Clause, which states that when a president wants to delegate authority, such as for a cabinet secretary, that person must be confirmed by the Senate.
The problem with Doge is it seems to purport, according to Musk and the president, to be up to a much bigger project about restructuring the government, eliminating agencies, feeding them into the wood chipper, as Elon Musk has said. And if that is what it's doing, it runs into significant constitutional problems.
So is Doge solely an advisory group, or is it more than that? Constitutional lawyer Chrisanne Hall is chief counsel for Liberty First Legal.
I think a great deal of the confusion comes from the name, because it's called the Department of, but it is not actually a department. Departments are limited by the Constitution, and they must be created by Congress.
I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, Doge.
The question then becomes, how is this informal advisory committee operating? Is it actually executing authority? Is it making decisions outside the presidential pen? If that's the case, then the courts are going to have to side with the Constitution that this is now operating like a department and not an informal advisory committee, and it's exceeding its authority.
Who's actually signing off on all of this, and what is the chain of command? Aren't those unanswered questions that need to get answered?
Well, they absolutely must get answered.
The White House sees this as all legally kosher, and that critics, including the media, need a history lesson.
Many people in this room who have used this talking point that Elon is not elected fail to understand how government works. So I'm glad for the opportunity for a brief civics lesson. The Constitution, Article 2, has a clause known as the vesting clause, and it says the executive power shall be vested in a president, singular. The whole will of democracy is imbued into the elected president. That president then appoints staff to then impose that democratic will onto the government.
Constitutional critics, however, still argue the White House can't even create Doge without congressional approval. The administration labels Doge as temporary and the reorganization of an already existing unit within the executive branch called the United States Digital Service. President Obama created it a decade ago to provide tech improvements to websites of federal agencies. Under the Doge umbrella, however, the unit's mission is different and more expansive. In interviews, Musk often implies his team has authority.
One of the biggest functions of the Doge team is just making sure that the presidential executive orders are actually carried out.
While on other occasions, he sounds like an advisor.
What we do is in consultation with the cabinet secretaries and with their departments.
As for President Trump's view, he wants cabinet secretaries to make the cuts, but there's a string attached.
Elon and the group are going to be watching them, and if they can cut, it's better. And if they don't cut, then Elon will do the cutting.
That kind of off-the-cuff presidential language could be problematic in court.
He's not a very specific communicator, and he enjoys speaking in hyperbole, which ends up creating confusion.
And then there's the paper trail issue.
We have a little saying in the legal field that if it's not in writing, it didn't happen.
This month, a federal judge ordered Doge to release internal records to show its operating procedures and if they're going through the proper channels.
Every check that's made, every cut that's made, every decision that's made must be followed with a paper trail all the way back to the president.
So where might all of this leave Doge?
Where do you think the courts are leaning in this, or is it hard to tell?
I think it's too soon to tell what any potential district court forum selection might determine. But I think ultimately, if and when this gets up to the U.S. Supreme Court, I think Doge itself is fine. It'll be more of an independent case-by-case basis.
Those cases could lead to constitutional fights over the appointments clause, the vesting clause, privacy matters, and separation of powers. Doge's current reach crosses into a large number of constitutional areas, and it very well could all lead to the United States Supreme Court for the final say. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Well, I agree with David. It's going to end up at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to have to tell us, is it okay for the president to hire advisors and appoint them outside of any kind of vetting process or the consent of the United States Senate, which he does have to do for all of his cabinet officers. So we'll see, and it could turn on just the use of the word department. Can the president create a department without an act of Congress? So we'll wait and see, but this is very interesting times where we're seeing whole new things that I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. As much as I applaud, let's get rid of waste and inefficiency in government. There certainly is a long list of it. We're hearing some pretty incredible things on a variety of government programs that you go, how in the world does this ever exist? And shouldn't we just do away with it? Particularly since we're spending ourselves into oblivion. How do we stop doing that and get the federal budget back under control? If it depends on the courts to do that, good luck trying to cut a budget if every time you do, you end up in front of a U.S. district judge that seems to be angry with you. So a lot of things are going to be tested, and I think one of the biggest things to be tested, does a U.S. district court judge have the power to shut down something the administration wants for the entire nation? That's one to really closely watch, because we've seen that again and again over the years. And does a judge, say in Hawaii, have the ability to shut down what the government's doing in New York? Right now, they're claiming that authority, and should the Supreme Court rein that in and say, well, you can apply it to your district, that's where you have authority, or to the state where your district is. But to say it applies across the nation, that's going to be a very interesting question that I think only the Supreme Court can answer. So, welcome to the new world. Well, there's a new sheriff in town, and things are definitely changing.
Are miracles real? Let's investigate.
A lot of skeptics will say, well, miracles are impossible. Why? Because they violate the laws of nature. You can't violate the laws of nature.
I looked at my hand that was clutched. I said, hand move.
We got the 2125.
Hallelujah! He's dead. It's over. I said, shock him one more time.